We're now about to go live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning, back from vacation, back from being sick. Pete
I had
Coles.
COVID so bad I had brain swelling.
Oh my God! What?
No
the
lie, I had
heck?
brains. I told Christy, I'm like, my hair hurts. She's like, what do you mean your hair hurts? I'm like, my hair hurts. I think I have an earache. Well, when I pressed down on my noggin, it felt a little better. I'm like, I got brain swelling. And I looked it up and I'm like, it's not a common side effect of COVID, but it is a side effect of COVID.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Right.
brain swelling.
Now,
Doc, if you're listening to that, I don't do things half.
he's on his way in, so so you'll be able to tell him. My guest this morning will be Dr. Akinyele Lovelace. He'll be with us in about 15 minutes or so. So, Pete, you were on this cruise.
Yes.
Yeah, did like everybody get sick, or did Christy get sick?
Yes.
Of course.
So, like, of the 10 of us, a couple people felt crappy for a day. But there was a Facebook page that somebody started for our particular cruise, the date and everything, and the ship,
Yep.
and several people on there said they got sick. So there had to be like one or two crew members maybe got sick,
Yep.
and I think I encountered one of them in a bathroom because I
Yep.
could hear somebody hacking. And it wasn't. And well,
Yeah.
what I was saying to other people, there's no incentive structure for the workers to stay in their room because I think they're all hourly employees,
Right.
Especially like the culinary staff.
Yeah.
They don't get paid if they're sitting in their room,
Right.
and so like most people, you got to work.
Yep.
Well, there should be incentive to give them a sick day or something.
Yeah,
I don't know what the
absolutely.
structure's like, but I'm pretty sure the incentive is they have to work. So I don't blame the worker per se.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
you're doing
I
your
know
job.
you're doing your job.
We did overall have a good time.
Now, when did you? That was one of my questions, and I think Kenny wasn't sure. But when did you actually get sick? Was it toward the end of it? Had you?
Oh, it was on my way home.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
So, but my thing is I was also battling the leg infection.
yes, I know.
still.
Before you left.
So when I developed a fever in the airport, I thought, well, maybe the leg infection's taking hold again. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think anything of it, right? And no big deal. I'll just take some Tylenol and get home and get my leg up, and we're good. Well, then I read on the page, Christy said some other people have come down with COVID. You should probably get tested. So I did, and of course, right away. I mean, it didn't even take 2 minutes. Both strips light up. I'm like,
Bingo.
well, I guess I'm out for a couple of days. And then
Yeah.
I sent a picture of it to Amy Toasty, and she's like, you got to be kidding me. Like, you got to be kidding me. You're sick. Yes, I'm sick
Yeah.
right off the bat.
Yep.
And the nice thing is that I don't get anybody else sick because I'm home by
Yeah.
myself. So,
Yep.
and then Christy got sick, and she's home isolating, and then allergies.
Yeah.
And then I start getting better from the COVID, and I'm still hacking,
Yeah.
and I still sound like a trained seal.
Yeah.
And now it's because of the tree allergies, and I'm hoping this rain today and tomorrow knocks that down.
I got to tell you, Pete, my allergies are out of control. I mean, I haven't had them this bad. Usually it hits me in my eyes, and it did at the beginning of allergy season, but I went for a 5-mile run on Saturday, which I had a great run. I was feeling really good, and I was fine until later in the day, and then my nose, I just couldn't stop. I went through an entire box of tissues, at least a box of tissues. I just could not. My nose ran for like 2 days straight. I finally came back to work on Monday, and it was not as bad. And then by yesterday, I was better. But I was just like, oh, just my runny nose. And thankfully, I didn't develop the hack because I thought, oh, this is going to create the cough. But it didn't.
That's what I'm worried about with all the sick I've been. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I don't develop pneumonia. You know what I mean?
Right. You're
So,
right. But they are
I'm gonna book in.
bad.
I'm gonna book in just to make sure. Let them listen to my chest to make sure I don't
Yeah.
develop. Because
Yeah.
for a while there, it's getting a little better, but I can feel it vibrating.
Yeah.
And when I cough, it's just like.
Now, had you had COVID at all before? Have you?
I think I had it. Well, they never were able to prove it.
At the very beginning.
But at the very beginning,
Yeah.
before when Kenny brought it back from the Consumer Electronics Show,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure. After that, nothing.
Yeah.
4 years, zip. I mean,
Yeah.
I tried too. Like I tried. I was around people who were sick and just say, okay, I want to get exposed to it, and nothing.
Yeah.
And then I think I had a real close exposure. Plus, now it's so virulent that even if you had protection before, that's probably worn off.
Yep.
Whatever. But I was ill.
Yeah.
I haven't been that ill in a while.
We had the family had it last September. Everybody. We think actually that the baby brought it home. She was sick for like a day, but of course she was only a couple months old. You couldn't test her. But we think she brought it home from,
and they're not, and babies are not generally, it's not going to bother them as much as it bothers the rest of us poor
right,
souls.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But, well, we're glad that you're back. And again, a public shout out. Thank you to Kenny Stomsky, who was here last week filling in. We had,
I said, now you know what my life is like.
I know.
You got the full dose of it.
He was a
like
trooper.
That was a week in my life. Everything, including working with Auerbach up at the airport and stuff. And just now you know what my week is like. Yeah. I even actually did one show from the house. I did Coach's show. Mm-hmm. His daughter came in and sat in the chair, but I was controlling everything from the house. Uh-huh. Like I was switching the show from the house.
Yep.
And he was like, this is really cool.
Yeah, we had a great show last week. Carol Palmer was on, and we're starting a series on outdoor activities. Yeah. And we started with golf. We had Ted Perez from East Mountain Country Club, and he did a great interview. Carol was really pleased with. So was I. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the Perez family, great people.
Yeah, and it was funny because Gary said to me later on, after the fact, he knew that we were going to start this series, but he didn't know, who was coming on or whatever. So he said to me, well, who was on your show this morning? He said, what'd you talk about? I said, golf. And he goes, oh, he said, who was on your show? I said, Ted Perez from East Mountain. Because I know Ted Perez. He said, why didn't you tell me that he was going to be on your show? I would have, at least tell him I said hello. So
Gary's welcome to stop in whenever he wants,
Well, thank you. I will pass that along to him. He's dealing with some stuff right now.
I know when he's better.
Yep. But,
he can come harass me anytime he wants.
Well, he may be able to do that over the summer, Pete. He's going to be taking some little time off from work.
There you go.
So,
sure.
Yeah. So what else? What else is going on with you? Oh, Pete, I have to tell you, of course I announced this last week for the show, but I have to tell you, because you weren't here to hear it, I did run Westfield a week and a half ago.
Okay.
I met all of my goals, Pete. I had not...
You finished without any injuries?
I finished without any injuries. It was not my fastest time by any stretch of the imagination, but
that's okay.
I had fun. I was waving to people along the route. I sprinted across the finish line. Remember, that was my goal. I said I want to have enough gas in the tank. I did a strong finish starting at the Athenaeum all the way down the straightaway, which is where there were a ton of people. It was a lot of fun. It was great. I felt redeemed from the year before. So it was a good time. It was really good running weather because it was sunny, but it was a little overcast. So the whole race was, not in the hot sun.
Cool.
Yeah, it was relatively coolish. So not bad for 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. So Gary asked me when my next race is. So I probably over the summer. I'd like to.
Did you see the story in the paper today about run 3?
I actually got an email from them 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
Which is really sad, and it's really caused some chaos because Run Stanley, we already had them booked, and they were already doing registrations for us. So we were.
I was hoping that somebody
yesterday.
Somebody like a nonprofit would pick it up as a side business. Maybe buy their equipment and maybe pick it up as a side business.
Yep.
I was trying to get a hold of Bo and see if the Boys and Girls Club would buy it.
Would want it, yeah. I did. Yeah, Gary said he got it.
I mean, they have everything else in their closet over there.
I know, right?
But it could be a good side business for somebody, a nonprofit that want to make a little extra money and has some hustle.
Yep. Yeah, so 413 is the as we're talking about the timing. They do, Racewire. Racewire does the flat fast. So those are the big ones around here. Racewire 413 is the name of the. So they're all the timers that do the chips in your thing, and then there are some smaller operations, and then there are some in Connecticut. But yeah, I said to, the emails were flying among the Run Stanley committee because that's who was going to time. They've done the timing for us for the last few years.
Sure, yeah.
So we've got to get somebody else. And I said, and now it's kind of late in the game. Of course, ours isn't until the fall. So that's
You have
good.
a little bit of breathing room.
We have a little wiggle room, but we had looked into some others. We had just been shopping around anyway earlier in the, at the beginning of the meeting season for Run Stanley. And a lot of the other ones are already booked for that date. So, and now, of course, anybody else who had 4 Run 3 is going to be looking for somebody else to take their place, just like we are.
Right.
So I said, kind of the faster we can book somebody, the better. And we'll pay whatever we have to pay.
I'm surprised that they didn't close everything else out and just keep that part of it.
I don't know.
I wonder if somebody could talk them into just keeping that part of it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I know it was a hard decision for them. They sent a pretty heartfelt, email out to everyone, and I know this was hard. I think they had started right before the pandemic, and then then kind of had a
right. And I think it was part of it is the retail part of it killed them.
Yep. So anyway, it's sad.
Yep.
All right, so we have all kinds of things going on this weekend, and as I mentioned, Dr. Akinyele Lovelace will be with us in a few minutes. Yep, good. Okay, all right. So I'm going to do my intro on Mental Health Awareness Month because that is what the topic of the day will be. So since 1949, May has been observed as National Mental Health Awareness Month, a time when advocates and activists across the country draw attention to the mental health issues that affect as many as 1 in 4 Americans. Today, more people die from suicide in the United States than from traffic accidents or homicides, and we lose 22 veterans to suicide daily. Mental Health Awareness Month helps people recognize the ways that mental illness impacts their lives. It educates people about available services, and it highlights ways to advocate. Recognition and education are important ways to remove the stigma associated with mental illness. Mental Health Awareness Month creates a time and space to start a conversation, and that's what we're going to do this morning. Talking openly about mental health can reduce the misconceptions and stigma and can encourage those who are suffering to seek help and find a support network. It's important for caregivers, friends, and loved ones to understand the impact that mental health has on daily life. When people are better educated on these conditions, they can better support and help someone dealing with a mental health issue. Nearly 1 in 5 adults in the United States has a mental health condition, but that one person has family, friends, and others whose lives are touched by their condition, even if they don't themselves suffer from one. You might be surprised by the prevalence of mental health conditions in adults in the United States. 48 million people have an anxiety disorder. 21 million have major depression. 9 million have post-traumatic stress disorder. 7 million have bipolar disorder. 3.5 million have borderline personality disorder. 3 million have obsessive compulsive disorder, and 1.5 million have schizophrenia. So those are some pretty staggering statistics. Did you know that addiction to drugs or alcohol is a mental illness? Addiction changes the brain in fundamental ways, changing a person's normal needs and desires and replacing them with new priorities connected with seeking and using the drug. This results in compulsive behaviors that weaken the ability to control impulses despite the negative consequences and are similar to hallmarks of other mental illnesses. Addiction interferes with the ability to work, go to school, and have good relationships with friends and family. According to the 2022 United States National Survey on Drug Use and Health, 46.8 million, that is 16.7% of Americans aged 12 and older, battled a substance use disorder in the last year. That's amazing, 16.7%. 10.5% of Americans 12 and older have an alcohol use disorder in the past year. 21.5 million American adults, that is 8.4%, suffered from both a mental health disorder and a substance use disorder or co-occurring disorders
Yeah,
in the
that's
past
the problem.
year.
It could be a symptom,
Absolutely.
and it could be the problem.
Exactly.
So sometimes you don't know what.
Exactly. And you don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg. But in a lot of cases, people with mental health issues self-medicate
Yeah.
with drugs and alcohol. And of course, now we know marijuana is out there, and so for all those people who keep saying, oh, it's not that bad, don't get me on my soapbox.
And for some people, it is an effective self-medication, but it becomes so expensive that now what do you do when you run out?
Right. Unfortunately, because of the stigma associated with mental illness, many people are too ashamed or embarrassed to seek the help they need for themselves or their loved ones. National Mental Health Awareness Month is a time when we work together to break through that stigma. We express compassion for those who struggle with mental health issues, and we draw attention to the proven methods that can help change their lives for the better. All right, it is 6:16. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We are going to bring the good Dr. Akindele Lovelace in with his own theme song written especially for him by his father-in-law, Diamond Temple, and it is called Call the Doctor. We'll be back.
Got this monkey on my back, got like nipping at my heels, turning on my wheels. What's this pain in my chest? No, I really don't want to gas. Appointment overdue. See, you ain't paid out when I woke up yesterday, and I can't remember if I took my meds today. It's alright, I won't remember anyway. Rock it like a two-step, then call the doctor.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at rockies.com.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday. Every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:19. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning. Well, Pete is back from
with a train seal in the box.
Pete is back from his vacation and his little bout with COVID, and he's healed. So what you hear are allergies, because it is some of us are suffering dearly with our allergies right now.
Just hit me with a mallet a couple of times and knock me out.
Poor Pete. And my guest this morning is Dr. Akindele Lovelace, here every month from Family Medicine Associates, our resident primary care physician. Welcome, doctor.
Oh, it's good to be here. Good morning.
It's good to have you here. So we were just discussing off air that we're coming down the home stretch on school for the girls.
No, we're not.
No, well, you're in mid-May, so they have about another month.
It is time to
buckle down,
get it in,
bring it home.
I'm not,
bring it home, right?
We might be, it might be in the fourth quarter here, but there's some key things that need to get executed, And we're not winding until
We're not winding. We're not winding down.
no,
But
there's no winding. We are pushing through.
We're pushing through. I love
So
it.
I am all in. So I'm not
Okay.
until it's time. It's time. But we
Okay.
need to stay in the game because these are final times. These are
Yes.
right. We're
Yeah.
taking finals. We're taking big tests.
Yep.
We've got essays to write. Like we've got some
That's
key
all
things
that
coming
into
down the
the-
pipeline at the end of the year, and so.
Now the oldest one
Today's the day.
is what grade? What are we?
We're
Ninth?
we're in middle school.
Middle school. Okay.
Yeah, so
Eighth.
it's great.
Eighth grade. Ninth grade.
We're almost there.
Almost
We're
there.
Almost
Okay.
there.
All right. And then the younger one.
We're almost
Still-
there.
we're almost there.
We're almost in middle school. So we're
Don't let
getting
them grow up that fast.
Yeah, I'm not.
No,
Yeah, I don't know
can't
why she
believe it.
wants us to kind of just give start them out on high school already.
No, I
I'm-
could.
I'm-
Well, you know,
trying
I'm
to take
losing
this
track,
one day at a
but
time.
I know I'm losing track.
Same
but
here, and it's
I can
okay.
remember when we were up at the college doing the radio show, and
Yeah.
Christina came. She was my guest. Brought the girls in, and they were under 5. Nobody was
Yeah.
in school yet. And they
anymore.
came with their
Yeah.
snacks and their busy toys. They were. I was just amazed at how well behaved they were just in the other room. Christina was like, okay, sit there, play with your stuff, have your snack. 45 minutes later,
Yeah.
we'll be done.
They're awesome people.
So it's just amazing.
They're awesome people, but I'm trying to just continue to encourage being in the moment.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
and
yeah,
really
absolutely.
being in where we're at right now
Yep.
and capitalizing on that, because sometimes if you're thinking too far ahead, you get a little distracted.
Yeah. Yep.
So I do think it's good to just be like, all right, here we go.
Yep.
One day at a time.
Yep.
You can count the days if you'd like. Some
Yeah,
are
yeah,
counting
yeah.
right now. I
Yeah.
think some have. I think my youngest says she has 23 days left of school.
Oh, really?
So,
Oh, wow.
But we're taking today.
Now, do they also participate in extracurricular activities along the way?
That's a requirement.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Okay. Is that a requirement by the Lovelace family or by the schools that they're in, or both?
It's both.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
What would there's no time. I mean, if I've got to work, if I've got to work extended hours.
Well, I kind of feel like
and
extracurricular
contribute-
activities for me
contribute
was
service activities.
I loved them. I mean,
as a parent, I don't care how you feel about them. You just have to do them,
You have to
right?
do
I
them,
think
yeah.
I think that's part of. I think that's becoming. I think that's part of being a well-rounded person.
Yeah. Yep.
And I
Yep.
do think that there is value in doing things that are collective in a sport or an art or whatever it may be, because I do think education comes in different forms, and I
Yeah.
don't necessarily think education. Sometimes the lessons you learn are not necessarily in the classroom,
Right.
but they could be
Right.
on the playing field.
Yep.
They could be, in the gym, and
Yep.
so those kind of team building experiences, I think they carry on. They
Yeah,
carry on to the
absolutely.
workforce. So I
Yeah.
do think there's some real value to the extracurricular activities that go on, and whether it's required by school or by the Lovelace household, it's happening. So
Well,
we're doing
whether
it.
it's required or not, I mean, hopefully people are enjoying what they're doing. And for me, I loved extracurricular activities. I mean, the school part of it, I was a good student. I was very dedicated and all that. But and I've kind of felt like the older I got, the more involved I got, and that's where you form other social circles, and especially for when you're in a certain grade, you're in the same classes with the same students. Whereas when you do extracurricular, you might be in with students that are a little older, students that are a little younger. So. You just it broadens your social circle.
Agreed.
Which I
And
think
this
is
is also
important.
part of social development, right? And that's kind of my point here. My point
Yeah.
is that whether or not they like it or not, I mean, of course,
Yeah.
you're going to give it a shot at least
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
year or for the season, and we're going to
Yes.
see how you feel, and we're
Yep.
going to finish it off. And
Yep.
if you don't want to do it next year, that's fine. But
Yep.
if you committed to it, right? I do
Yes.
give options. So what would
Yes.
you like to do? You're not going to do nothing.
Right.
You're
Yep.
going to do something. And
Yep.
so if you'd like to do something, I support that. We will support you. We're going to see it through, and we're going to just learn, because I do think putting yourself in those unknowns and uncomfortable spaces that's a learning opportunity.
It is.
And
Yeah.
I think the one thing that we tend to see as we get a little bit older is we stop doing those extracurricular
Yeah.
things that put us into that uncomfortable space,
Yeah.
and we stop learning. And so I think for me and for anyone in my family or anyone in my circle, I'm always going to continue to encourage service and some type of extracurricular activity.
Yeah, super important. And you're right. Stepping out of the comfort zone.
It's a must.
It's how you grow, though, and it's how you feel like you've accomplished something, I think.
Correct. I would
So,
agree with
I
that.
think- And I also like the commitment piece,
Yeah.
because it doesn't have to be a commitment for life. But if it's, if you've decided you're going to audition for a play and you get a part, you're there until that play is over. Whether you decide, this is maybe not for me, well, You got to finish this one
Until
out.
the last curtain call.
Exactly. There you go. So, all right. So, Dr. Lovelace, the topic of the month is mental health awareness, which I think is really important. And I love the fact that we're talking about this. And I was thinking as I was getting ready to come this morning, I am in my late 60s, and when I was growing up, mental health was not even discussed. It wasn't talked about. We had a state psychiatric hospital. I grew up in northern New Jersey. We had a state psychiatric hospital about 20 minutes from my home. And, it was this big, ominous place. I mean, it was this sprawling campus with these huge, dark buildings behind all these fences. And that's what my vision of mental health and mental illness was. And I can remember, I distinctly remember this. This is so interesting. I was probably about 12. And periodically, my parents I was an avid reader, so were all my brothers. I was the kid with the flashlight under the covers at night, wait, I just have one more chapter. And periodically, my mother would take us to the county library, which was much larger than our town library. And so there were all kinds of books in there. And I would just get lost. And I remember finding a whole section, and I was in middle school, so probably about the age of your girls. And I found a book it was a novel written for, a young adult on a girl whose mother had a mental health condition. And I was so excited to get this because I just thought it's a peek into something that in my generation at that time, people just didn't talk about it. It wasn't discussed. Everything was hushed tones. And you talk about stigma. I mean, and so I really didn't know. And in the book, the mother was hospitalized. And so here again, it was like, oh my God, she went to that big state place that, was behind. And so I feel like this is so different now. And I'm happy that it's different now. And I'm happy that we're having the conversation. I'm curious from a doctor's standpoint, where do you see all this?
From a mental health perspective, it's part of what we have to technically address routinely. I'm very happy that it's becoming a lot more to the forefront when it comes to having that discussion in the office. And sometimes that's why sometimes it's really important to have a good relationship with your provider or just with your patient, because we're gonna have these ups and downs. And I think the value of being a primary care provider in this setting is that if you're really in it for the long haul, you're going to go through these ups and downs, right? And we're going to celebrate transitions. We'll celebrate being 21. We'll celebrate, being 45 and getting our first colorectal examination. We'll celebrate being 65 and getting our pneumonia shots. And so we celebrate these transitions, but we also celebrate life circumstances, getting married or having a child, or the other part to it is having a really bad diagnosis, or your spouse having a bad diagnosis. And those create moments in life, and how we go about addressing how we feel and what we think about what's happening going forward is really important, because what I do know and what I've experienced is that in this space, there's going to be these storms that come, and having someone that supports you and tells you, I believe in you, or that you're going to be okay, or that this is not the end, this is just a transition, is so important. And so I think as a provider who's dedicated to this craft, to his community, I think it's wonderful that we now can openly talk more about mental health, and that it's not a macho thing, it's not a stigma thing, it's just kind of where we're at. I would also say that because the workforce is also changing, it's becoming so much more multi-generational, that we have a different generation of people coming into the workforce that have a much more open understanding and feeling about identity, about their role in society, and about their wellness to a certain extent. And I'm for that. So I'm very, very happy about where we're going as a provider in this space. I
think sometimes, again, because I'm in a different generation now. And a lot of the people that I work with are older than I am. So I have people in their 70s and 80s and even into their 90s, as you do. And I find it's really interesting. You know, sometimes I'll have seniors, especially the men, but even the women, who will come to me and say, you know, I went to see my doctor and he asked me if I was depressed. And it was kind of like, I don't know. You know, I think especially with women from that generation, it was just like, you know, you're raising kids and you're doing this and you're doing that and you have all these responsibilities and like, who has time to be depressed kind of thing, you know? I mean, it was sort of like, what? You know, and I sometimes it kind of stops people in their tracks. And I think the other thing is that it's the word, you know, it's the word anxiety or it's the word depression that will sort of say to people, oh, well, no, I don't think I'm really depressed. I'm kind of down. You know what I mean? Or I'm you know, I'm down in the dumps, or I'm, you know, I feel kind of blue. But depression kind of makes it more clinical, and so sometimes people in especially the older generation, they're not used to that language. You know?
No, they're not, and that's why typically it's more of a series of questions or a dialogue that's normally had. Are you interested in the things that you normally like to do?
Yeah.
Are you sleeping more? Are you eating less? Are you eating more? Mm-hmm. Do you feel like a failure? Do you want to hurt yourself?
Yeah.
You know, are you isolated? Right? Like there are a lot of things that we tend to allow them to self-identify. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it'll be a questionnaire that we will kind of review or have them just kind of check through. Mm-hmm. And that kind of creates an opportunity or a space for a little bit of self-reflection. Mm-hmm. And you kind of look at it, and then the provider will kind of review this questionnaire. And if there's some indications that there might be some degree of depression, we start to have the conversation. So we can start to say, because I agree, there is a generation of people where you're just like, you know what, you just tie up your boots and you just keep trucking, and that's the end of it. And there's no time. But then lo and behold, when you peel back the covers, they're doing a lot of other things to themselves in the background that may not be as productive mentally or physically. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the root cause is their mental health or their lack of awareness of where they're at mentally, and not knowing that there's options for them. Yeah. And I think that's a key challenge sometimes for a lot of adults. For the men, there's always been this kind of masculinity association. And I think what's interesting in my journey in this process and in working with patients who have suffered from any kind of mental health issue, a lot of times it does take a level of trust for your mental health provider, because there's always this concept that, you know, I know for a lot of the older generations, you can remember that there were a lot of institutions that people would just be put in. Yeah. And you would just you'd be there, and you wouldn't be able to leave, and you'd be tied down, and there's this whole kind of narrative. And I've had some patients that have been to some of those facilities here that are now since closed. Sure. And so how we even go about treating people is also something that we have to continue to reinforce, that it doesn't look like that anymore. Yeah. And that there's a safer way of doing these things, you know? And so that's a big deal with a lot of our older adults. Absolutely, boy, absolutely. I agree. All right, let's take a breath here and kind of digest a little bit of this. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. If you're just joining us, my guest this morning is Dr. Akinyele Lovelace, primary care physician with Family Medicine Associates here in Westfield. The topic is mental health. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. And we're actually going to listen to Paramore, and she is singing a song called Fake Happy. We'll be back.
I don't blink. You see, it's easy when I'm stomping on a beat, but no one sees me when I crawl back underneath. Hey, if I smile with my teeth, I bet you believe me. If I smile with my teeth, you think I believe me? Oh, please, don't ask me how I've been. Don't dress up my fears. You think I look alright with these mascara tears? See, I'm gonna draw my lipstick whiter than my mouth. And if the lights are low, they'll never see me frown. Hey, if I smile, I might teeth. I bet you believe me. If I smile, I might teeth. You think I believe me? Oh, please don't ask me how I've been. Don't make me play pretend. Oh no. Oh, what's the use? Oh, please, I bet everybody here is fake happy too. You know I said that I was doing good and that I'm happy now. Ooh, I should've known when things were going good. That's when I'd get knocked down. Oh, please, just don't ask me how I've been. Don't make me play pretend. Oh, no. Oh, what's the use? Oh, please, I bet everybody here is fake happy Oh, please, I bet everybody here is fake happy
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning.
From 6 until at least 7:30,
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show.
right here on WSKB 89.5.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:38. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. Pete Coles is behind the glass, and my guest this morning is Dr. Akanyeli Lovelace, primary care physician with Family Medicine Associates here in Westfield. And the topic today is mental health. And it is May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're talking a little bit about mental health from a primary care physician's perspective on what you see. And I guess there are two things that I wanted. Well, there are lots of things I want to talk about, but let's dovetail and pick up where we left off. And you were talking about sort of teasing out if there might be, especially maybe some depressive symptoms that you're seeing. And yeah, it's hard when you say to someone, "Are you depressed?" Some people will say yes, they'll be able to self-identify, and other people will say, "Well, I don't know, I never really thought about that."
Or I just have the blues.
Right, yeah. Or, well, I have days when I'm not feeling that great. But so if you, based on the questions that you've kind of talked about, if you sort of decide that, this person is probably experiencing some symptoms, where do you go with that patient at that point?
So we then, a lot of times it depends on their age.
Okay.
And other chronic conditions that they may or may not have. And we start to have conversations about their support system.
Okay.
And we start to have conversations about, whether they are actively working, whether they have, something that they're doing, whether they're retired or not. Mm-hmm. And we then start to have the conversation about what would happy look like for you?
Oh, okay.
What does that look like? Or what are the things that you do for yourself, right? Because you gave a great example of how you'll have a lot of the older adults that we've seen who've dedicated their lives to their families.
Yeah.
and they get to a point where no one really needs them anymore, or there's no one even around anymore, and so then they're kind of left to their own thoughts. And so we start having conversations about, well, what are you saying to yourself, and what are those kind things that we can say about ourselves? And some people struggle with that.
Yeah.
And so we start to have that conversation about happy talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
And then from there, we start to even, I bring up the opportunity to say, do you feel like, we've kind of identified that you might be showing some signs of depression. Do you think medical therapy might be of something you'd be interested in?
Okay.
And so from there, we start to have a dialogue about what that looks like.
Okay.
The type of medications that are available, why we use these medications, what are the purpose of the medications, right? And so we start to have that conversation about medical management. I also like to have conversations about, are you talking to a mental health provider? Have you talked to a counselor? And then that's when it gets a little interesting, because for a lot of adults, they'll tell me, well, I've talked to a counselor once or twice and it just didn't work for me, and that was the end of it. And I try to encourage them to consider the concept that it's kind of like coaching. When you're on a team of some sort, maybe it's a basketball team or a hockey team, and the coach has to kind of be around consistently, even for some of the best players, to kind of make sure that they're going in the right direction and that they're meeting their goals. And so it may not feel right the first couple of times, but sometimes you gotta stay with it a little bit longer. And so we start to talk about that. The other part of it, though, also is for those that have looked for it, sometimes it's hard to find.
Yeah,
right? And so as in the primary care space, we can definitely treat, medically, but sometimes I have 15, 30 minutes. I don't necessarily have a whole hour or hour and a half to unpack a lot of things that have occurred in someone's life, or just kind of where they're at, to the point where we can kind of reach those kind of enlightened moments. And so we start to talk about who is available and who's out there. And for a good period of time, there's been a real deficiency in providers in that space. And and post-COVID, a lot of the psychiatrists and mental health providers they all kind of went off. They went really to the web, right? They all became more remote. I think the good news that I'm starting to see is because we've got that wonderful, wonderful mental health facility in Holyoke now, which is absolutely gorgeous. If you haven't driven by,
I haven't been there yet.
Beautiful, state of the art, and it has now brought back a lot of providers in that space, whether they're psychologists or psychiatrists, and they're functioning and having the ability now not to just see adults, but adolescents and young teenagers, as well as older adults in the geriatric space. And so that's something I'm very hopeful for. I'm very happy to see. And so we're now getting to a place where there are more providers that are starting to come back online now that we're pushing through the pandemic. And so we're now being able to find providers that also meet the patients where they're at, because I do think even how you might identify also matters, and having someone that can relate to what you might be going through, right? I'll never be able to relate to a mom completely. It might be a little bit difficult for me to really, really nail down that but if there's that gentleman who's lost his hair and's got some gray on his face, I think we could relate a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely, I do.
I think there's some value to that. So we really, really have those conversations, and I remind the patient, when it comes to medications, mental health counseling or coaching or seeing a psychiatrist, it's not a forever thing either. I don't like to commit you to these medicines, right? Because to your point, like we talked about, that stigma that existed about being put in the rubber jacket, tied up and bound. it's not like that. And so I tend to encourage and tell my patients that, this is not a long-term thing. This could be for 3 months, maybe 6 months. Maybe we try it and we kind of reassess where we're at. So it's an ongoing dialogue that I like to have when we're talking about mental health.
Yeah. I think too, especially when you're dealing with an older population, there are so many different levels of depression and anxiety.
Agreed.
And, I think I run a support group at the senior center that I've been running for 19 years. I can't believe how long I've been running this group. It was literally from like the second month I started there. And it's a very eclectic group. And for a lot of the folks in my group over the years, they've come, they've gone. I mean, some of them have been with, in the group for 10 years plus. And then I have some that drift in and drift out depending on situational things going on. Right now we have a lot of widows and widowers, although it's not specifically a grief support group. But what I found is that a lot of them have worked with their medical provider because the topic of medication has come up. And, somebody will say, well, my doctor talked about me possibly going on an antidepressant. I don't know how I feel about that. And then the first time that ever happened, which was years ago, I remember, pretty much everybody in the group going, oh, yes, I was on it. And, same as what you're saying, doesn't have to be for a lifetime. I was on it for a year, 6 months or whatever. It helped. It didn't. Whatever, we had to adjust. Yeah. I was on one. That one wasn't really cutting it. We tried something else. It's so much better. So there's, but what I find is that there's sort of that mild sort of underlying depression all the way to, someone who might be suicidal. And we've seen it all at the senior center, from one extreme to the other, and everything in between. So I think one of the things that's important is to sort of try to figure out, where is this person right now? And again, seniors deal with a lot of loss. They might have lost their job, not by choice. They might have kind of been forced into leaving or retirement, or just kind of reached the conclusion that, wow, this, technology is way beyond what I can do right now, even though I used to be so good at my job. But they kind of conclude that it's time for me to, step down or step aside. They're losing spouses and friends and siblings as they get older.
Independence.
There's no doubt. Transportation. I mean, I just had this conversation with my elderly neighbors about, driving. And, there's that whole piece of it. And from these are two smart people, from an intellectual standpoint, they're saying, yep, we know it's time. But, there's this other piece but that really, not that they're doing a whole lot of driving, but it's just the fact that they can if they feel like they want to or need to. And that's a whole different conversation.
It is a whole different conversation, but I think it's really important because those are those transitions that we talked about. And I think as we get a little bit older, those transitions start to impact how we see our value. And I have to remind them that there's still a lot that needs to be done. There are still people that are looking for you.
Yes.
And sometimes we need to be reminded of that. I think what was really impactful for a lot of our seniors was really the lockdown that we went through, and how we found that isolation was detrimental to a lot of our seniors. And so I think now that we're kind of coming out of that, and hopefully we're creating a more inclusive environment for our seniors. I'm looking forward to seeing even how we can even reintroduce them back into our workforce in a lot of different ways. They're definitely needed in healthcare, that's for sure. And so what I would say to that when it comes to just what's happening right now is that there is a space where we can have a good conversation about where we're at throughout the spectrum of our life. And I do think it's important that we continue to check in. And so I think checking in every year just to kind of have that kind of sense for where you're at, I think is extremely important. And whether you need medicines or not, that varies. But I do think checking in at least once a year is important, because you're right, it does vary between being almost somewhat psychotic and suicidal to just having just a bad couple of days or a couple of weeks. Yeah. And sometimes it's for real appropriate reasons, right? Sure. Like you said, if they're thinking about taking away my driver's license, or if they're thinking about going from assisted living to the nursing home, or leaving your home and going to assisted living, right? Like all of those are big transitions. Yeah. And I think that, for a lot of us, getting married, Going to, watching someone pass away, right? Those are big things, but also moving, right? Moving is a huge stressor.
Yep.
And so these large stressors that occur, they continue to occur well into our older or our longer years. And so it's important that we are still mindful of that and just paying attention. So I think it's important.
Yeah, and I think that kind of brings up, this is a perfect transition into the whole other piece that I've not really paid as much attention to until more recent years, and that is anxiety. We've talked a lot about depression. I've been kind of keyed into that, especially among the seniors that I work with, but I think anxiety, and maybe because I've experienced it myself and had not really recognized that before, sort of identifying that, sort of for what it's worth, and have watched other people and have certainly, but when you talk about like moving, there is sometimes that element of depression, but more than that, I'm seeing more of an element of anxiety of, especially if it's an older adult who might be moving out of the area to be closer to one of their children and their grandchildren. So there's that piece of, well, I want to be closer to my children and my grandchildren, and I can be more involved and I can go to their events and all of that. But there's also the anxiety of leaving the familiar, just what And I mean, and I can remember having this discussion with my parents. My dad had Alzheimer's. I was really encouraging my parents at the time to consider moving closer to one of the kids because they were living in Cincinnati, which is where my older brother was. He and my sister-in-law retired and moved to Maine. So that left my parents in Cincinnati, like 1,000 miles from any of us. My parents were, and I remember this conversation, Dr. Lovelace, and I thought, oh my God, are you kidding me? I'm talking to two people with master's degrees plus, and they're giving me reasons like we can't move because, well, the church is across the street. And I said, okay, I understand that. They've always been very involved in the Catholic Church and so forth. But I said, there are other churches. When you moved here, you became involved in this church. You had been involved in your church in New Jersey. So, that can be done. But it got down to, but the post office is here and our bank is here. And, and I'm thinking, well, what do you think we do in the rest of the country? We have Pony Express. I mean, there are post offices. But it wasn't the post office. It was the familiar, And ultimately, they ended up moving closer to my brother down in Tennessee. And I think as my mother said, we should have done this, 5 years ago. But it was just that whole overwhelming thought of packing and move. And even though we kept saying, you're not going to do that yourself, we're going to help you, of course. But still, it's going through, all of your stuff and having to figure it all out. And it was just, in retrospect, I think the anxiety level was just through the roof. And of course, you take somebody who has Alzheimer's disease anyway and put them in an unfamiliar, and you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and especially when we start to develop some cognitive deficiencies.
Yeah.
For those who have not gotten to that stage in their life yet, we take for granted the cues that give us comfort.
Yes.
Right. So, I know I'm coming to the radio station today because I see the green room. I see Pete. I see Tina. I see the wall. Right. Like, we take those things for granted, but those are important cues to reassure us that we're safe.
Yes.
And so a lot of times when we stop really understanding that we are safe, it creates a sense of that sense of worry, right? And I tend to say that worries are prayers that we don't want answered. And
that's right.
And I feel like that is very true to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And so you're correct. A lot of times what we also are now looking for is some level of anxiety as well. And whether it's associated with depression or with something else, we tend to want to have the conversation about, well, are you able to control your worrying?
Yeah.
Are you worrying too much about a lot of different things? Are you constantly unable to relax? And so finding that space that says that you're safe is key. And so trying to kind of get to the bottom of it is sometimes extremely hard to kind of unravel what's there, but it's also something that we have to continue to treat because it does ultimately get in the way a lot of times of moving forward in life.
Yeah.
But it's hard. Like it's really hard on our adults, our children as well.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it also comes with what we're saying to ourselves consistently on a daily basis about the positive things in our life. And sometimes it's not easy, and
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of support.
Well, it takes support, and what I've learned over the years in running the support group, and I feel like sometimes I get way more than I give. I'm just the facilitator, but I've learned so much from these folks, and especially those who are going through the loss of a spouse. Like right now, we've just got a lot of people that are going through that, both men and women. And I am really happy to say that over the course of this group, we started out, and I don't think for the first 10 years I had a male participate. But now I've got like a whole group. It's not quite half and half, but we're really approaching that. But what's interesting to me is that the timing of things, and I've learned that there's no recipe for, okay, you lost your husband or you lost your wife, and that first year is going to be hard, the second year is going to be hard, but then it's really different for everybody. Some of them start to, and it depends on what their role was.
Yeah.
One of the I can remember when I was teaching at Springfield College, one of the OT professors did her doctoral dissertation on caregivers whose spouses end up in the nursing home, but the caregiver continues to visit the person daily and kind of do almost caregiving in the nursing home and supporting and everything. The person passes away. And where does that leave the caregiver? All of a sudden you've got like 12 hours a day that were devoted to being someplace else or in the same home if you're caregiving in the same home. And it's like, that is huge. And I hear that all the time in my group. It's like, what do I do? You talked before about purpose.
And it's so important because I think, and back to kind of where we started, I've got a fifth grader going into the sixth grade. I've got a seventh grader going into the eighth grade. And so the concept of us doing new things and creating new relationships and redefining what we're going to become, right? And I think as we get older, sometimes we do get into this routine that gives us comfort. And then all of a sudden it just changes out of nowhere for years, right? And so there is some difficulty because it does take some level of adjustment. And I think that adjustment period varies tremendously for our adults because, you kind of get into this, this routine. Like I know I'm supposed to be here on a Wednesday, one time a month at some point, and what happens when I don't do it anymore? I don't know. Where am I supposed to go at 5 a.m, right? And that's a real thing. And I think in my space as well, I've become a lot more appreciative of how that impacts someone's life when it's taken away or when it's not there, and redefining what you become in life is a skill that we all have to continue to work on.
Yeah.
And I think we don't necessarily do it once we kind of get settled in.
Yep.
And so once change comes, because change is inevitable, we have a hard time adapting. And so I look at those seniors who've been able to sustain a loss like that, and then you look up and 5 years from now they're married again, or they've taken on a new craft, or they're traveling, right? Yeah. So I always encourage self-development throughout all of this process. I think is key, and so that will be something to kind of lean on when you have these hard times or when transitions come, because they're coming.
Yeah, and I think as you were saying that, I was thinking about a couple of the folks that are in the group that I'm running, and one of them. Two of them, male and female. So they had both lost their spouses at around the same time. And I remember one of them saying to another in the group, the last time we met, like, I'm not where, you seem to be adjusting and I'm not there yet. And I think those are the kind of cases where, that's a conversation to have with your medical provider, to say, I'm really struggling with not forgetting and not, moving on, but just really being stuck with, just the sameness of every day and just really trying to muck through. Because nobody, I mean, yes, you've lost someone, and yes, there's going to be sadness and grief, but you don't want to be stuck there for 5 years either.
Okay,
you know?
agreed. Yeah, 5
Right?
years is a long time,
Yeah.
and I agree. That is when you have that conversation about, hey, am I venturing into something else besides just grief? I think that's
Right.
important.
Right.
And then I also always remind people that we're all if this was a race, we're all running the race at our own pace,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a race against ourselves, not against anyone else. And so I try not to use any comparisons.
Yep.
With what anyone
Yeah.
else has been going through,
Yep.
because those relationships are very unique to that individual and the relationship that they had. And so I never try to put too much of a timeline on it. But as a primary care provider, we like to identify if there is something that looks pathologic
Yes.
in this process,
Yep.
and then drawing that to their attention and saying, hey, well, maybe we should consider this as well. And
Yep.
so I think that's kind of key when the primary care provider needs to jump in.
Absolutely. My guest this morning has been Dr. Akinyele Lovelace, primary care physician with Family Medicine Associates here in Westfield. The topic has been mental health awareness. And, part of Mental Health Awareness Month is having these conversations.
Huge.
It is huge, and it's huge to have them with your medical providers. But, it's also important if people can really sit down and be honest with their family members and their close friends. And, family, 9 times out of 10, family really wants to help. And sometimes they just don't know. Or sometimes it's like, yeah, I hope mom's doing okay. I don't really want to, venture into it. But it really is important to have those discussions. So be open, be honest, and, know that mental health care and options for care are very different now than they were 60, 70 years ago. So not
absolutely.
the same thing. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back after this break.
What you want, baby, I got it. What you need, you know I got it. All I'm asking is for a little respect when you come home. Just a little bit, baby, just a little bit. Just a little bit, mister, just a little bit. I ain't gonna do you wrong while you're gone. I ain't gonna do you wrong 'cause I don't wanna. All I'm asking is for a little respect, just a little bit, baby, just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. I'm about to give you all my money, and all I'm asking in return, honey, is to give me my breakfast when you get home. Just a little bit, just a little bit. Ooh, your kisses, sweeter than honey. And guess what? So is my money. All I want you to do for me is give it to me when you get home. Yeah, baby, whip it to me. Just a little bit now, just a little bit. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, T-F-T-C-T. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, little respect. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me. Woo, yeah, little bit, little respect. Just a little bit. I get tired. Just a little bit. Keep on trying. Just a little bit. You're running out of food. Little bit. I ain't lying. Just a little bit. Respect me when you come home. When you start walking.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes and Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldstate.bncollege.edu. WSFD-LP.com.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for ArtSpeak, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:04. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the man behind the glass, Pete Coles, who's getting a personal little update with his primary care physician, Dr. Lovelace. So today, May 15th, is National Chocolate Chip Day. So, we need to talk about this because chocolate chips are good. Good food, good stuff. May 15th, we recognize a morsel of a thing on National Chocolate Chip Day. Have you ever wondered how a single ingredient would change a recipe? If it weren't for one curious baker, it would be hard to imagine where we would be without the invention of chocolate chips, which, by the way, were invented. I mean, somebody had to come up with the concept. Well, guess what? It was somebody right here in Massachusetts. In 1937, Ruth Graves Wakefield of Whitman, Massachusetts, must have been curious about what a little bit of chocolate would add to her cookies. While working at the Toll House Inn, she added cut-up chunks of a semi-sweet Nestle chocolate bar to a cookie recipe. The cookies were a huge success, and 2 years later, in 1939, Wakefield signed an agreement with Nestle to add her recipe to the chocolate bar's packaging. In exchange for the recipe, Wakefield received a lifetime supply of chocolate. The Nestle brand Toll House cookies were named for the inn. Nestle initially included a small chopping tool with the chocolate bars. Starting in 1941, Nestle and other competitors started selling the chocolate in chip or morsel form. So they broke it up for you. But initially you had to, they gave you a little chopper and you could chop up the candy bar. For the first time, bakers began making chocolate chip cookies without chopping up the chocolate bar first. Chocolate chips originally came in semi-sweet. Later, chocolate producers began offering bittersweet, semi-sweet, mint, white chocolate, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and white and dark swirled. So there are all kinds of chocolate chips that we can get today. Today, chips also come in a variety of other flavors that bakers and candy makers use creatively in their kitchens. While cookies may be the first treat to come to mind, imagination is really the only thing limiting how chocolate chips can be used in baking and candy making. Even savory dishes feature chocolate chips in a variety of ways. Had Ruth Graves Wakefield never wondered what a few chopped up chunks of chocolate would be like in her baking, we wouldn't even have chocolate chip cookies. So, how do you observe Chocolate Chip Day? Well, whether you bake up chocolate chip cookies or melt them down and begin dipping, be sure to celebrate. Make sweet treats to share or experiment with a new recipe. Dive into Grandma's recipe box and try an old favorite too. Be sure to share the best ones, of course. Now, my mother-in-law used to make this phenomenal coffee cake, and she put chocolate chips in her coffee cake. I had never had chocolate chips in a coffee cake. Trust me, it is like to die for. And my daughter Grace makes this wonderful pumpkin loaf, and the recipe calls for chocolate chips. So there you go. That's another really nice combination. So experiment around on Chocolate Chip Day. And,
pumpkin and chocolate chips?
Yes.
Pumpkin bread?
It is absolutely fabulous. It's really
Sounds like
good.
it.
Oh, it's really good. And she just started making these. They're kind of like, you use a muffin tin, but there's a lot of oatmeal in them, but they also have some chocolate chips and I think shredded coconut. And
well, anything's better with chocolate.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Today, P. I know you were talking to Dr. Lovelace, but today, May 15th, is National Chocolate Chip Day, and the chocolate chip was invented in Massachusetts. So of course, we had to talk about that.
Yeah, because it's the Toll House.
At the Toll House Inn.
Right, I knew that.
At the Toll House Inn.
No,
Ruth Graves Wakefield.
My primary care doctor was laughing at me when I went through my litany of issues coming off the cruise. He's like, "Are you kidding me?"
I know, right?
I said, when I said hit me with a hammer, I really meant that. And he goes, and so I'm telling him the timeline, and he goes, That's right. You came back and the trees are exploding with pollen, and he's
Oh, my gosh.
holy cow. He goes, how did you deal with it?
I am just, I don't, I
didn't.
mean, you have allergies, Pete, and so do I, but do you feel like, I just feel like this year is, for me, it feels worse than it has in the last 5
Well, remember,
years. I don't know.
I was out of it while it was starting to bloom, and then I got
and then you
full
came
force.
back. Yeah.
And then I was isolated for a week, and I opened the windows like one day, and I started
Yeah.
a fan to blow the air around the house because that was critical.
Yeah.
And then now I'm back out in it again. So like,
Yeah.
just starting to feel better from one thing, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like,
It's insane. I don't know about you, but like for my allergies, the worst time is right now. Like when everything's just blooming. Sometime in June, it kind of settles down for me. Like once everything's actually blossomed,
Yep.
and I think part of it is just because my body is now used to it. But, when we're at this, like everything is blooming. Of course, Gary's been frantically getting the lawn ready. So he's been planting flowers and doing all this stuff. He's about 2 weeks ahead of schedule just because, he's got some upcoming things he's got to deal with.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like, whoa, we've got flowers out the wazoo here.
All I can say is thank God for the rain the next 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that should relieve the
Hopefully.
symptoms a little bit.
Hopefully, yeah. I mean, when you have that green, like coat of pollen on everything, holy smokes.
This is not the worst I've seen it because my car wasn't that bad. I've seen it worse.
Yeah, I have too.
Blowing part, but it's out there.
But it's just out there.
It's out. That's definitely. We're not getting as much wind, so it's not blowing as bad.
Yeah.
But if you live in a wooded area, forget it.
Oh, and you are like under the trees over there, my friend.
Oh, the pine trees.
You've got a lot of pine
yeah.
trees, yeah.
Yep.
A
Oh,
ton
forget
of pine
it.
trees, holy smokes.
I've seen it where my car is coated, my driveway is coated, the house is coated.
Yeah.
Like everything is just this sheen of green.
So, Pete, one of the things we haven't talked about, Saturday or Sunday was Mother's Day.
Yes.
Of course. So, did your mom have a nice Mother's Day? I know you've been like under the weather, but
Yeah, she's like, we'll delay our thing. My brother took
Okay.
her to some outlet mall. She wanted to go to Chico's or something.
Okay,
I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah,
She's
yeah.
a big Chico's fan.
oh
so-
yeah, they've got beautiful clothing.
Right. So
If you're
like,
a woman, you know Chico's. Yep.
Right. We were at Timmy's graduation from boot camp, and she's like, "There's a Chico's outlet on the way to the airport."
Yeah.
Okay, Mom.
Well,
But
because
we're gonna do something later on because she's like, "You need to rest."
Yeah. Perfect.
You're still recovering, so
Yeah. Perfect.
we'll do something down the road.
All right.
Maybe do a road trip to Rhode Island when it gets a little nicer.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We've done that. We've gone down to Musquamacket Beach and gone for lunch and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, we had, this was Grace's first Mother's Day.
Yep.
And so we wanted to make that really special, and which it was. I have to say, we did a lot of really great things, and I had ordered her a shirt with a picture of Charlie and Grace on it. And it said, Charlie loves Mama Grace, and so Grace wore that proudly on Mother's Day, and Charlie and I made a card for her, and this
Nice.
was a hoot because, of course, Charlie can't sign her name, so I thought, all right, well, we'll do it a different way. Maybe we can get her like an imprint of her lips on there or a footprint or whatever.
Sure.
Well, we tried the lip thing, and believe it or this was hysterical, Pete. So I get the lipstick on Charlie, which that was okay. We actually got that on without her eating the lipstick. So we got the lipstick on. So I go to blot it on a piece of paper. That's what she decided she was going to eat. So, we get soggy paper, lipstick all over. I said, okay, forget it. Plan B. We wiped off the face. I said, all right, we're going to go with the footprint. So then I'm thinking, so Grace actually had a stamp pad, with washable ink. So I thought, well, this will be perfect. I went to put Charlie's, so I had everything all set up, and I went to put her foot on the stamp pad, and I was like, when did your foot get so big? This pad is so small. So it took a couple of tries.
They grow.
They do. They grow. And so it was more important to get the toe part of it on because I figured I can always fill in the heel with something else, which I did. So we got all that done, and I'm laughing, and Charlie's, of course, trying to put her foot down, and I didn't want her to put it down like on the carpet, because I was thinking, I know this is washable, but I don't really want to be cleaning up my carpet. So we got all of that done. So we got the card done. So it was nice. And Grace, I said to Grace, okay, what do you want to do on Mother's Day? She wanted to go to the Lupa Zoo. I've never been to the Lupa Zoo in Ludlow.
Yep.
And Grace has. She's been there with friends of hers who have young children. And so she said, it's small enough to where, it's not a whole day and it's only going to take us 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get there. So we went to the Lupa Zoo and it was absolutely a blast. We had so much fun. We had Charlie in the stroller for most of the time. And, we all decided she was good as gold for 90 minutes. We were there for over an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. I don't know whether she was more fascinated, Pete, with the animals or the other children and the other babies in strollers, which were at her height. You know what I mean? Like she's used to being around adults and we're standing up and she's low. So she was just looking around. We went to, they have several.
Full exposure too.
Yeah. Oh, and it was outside. It was a perfect day. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. They have several species of monkeys, and we went down to this one monkey who was in the cage by himself, and it was a big cage and it had ropes all over. And I am telling you, this monkey, they must have gotten this monkey from a circus because this monkey absolutely put on a show. And it was at the time that we were there, it was kind of down one area that wasn't too populated and it was on the corner. So we were the only ones there. This monkey was giving us a private show and Charlie was mesmerized. This thing was swinging all over the place. And then it kept looking back like, are you watching me? Because I'm really great. I'm doing all this stuff and entertaining you. And it was just so much fun.
Funny.
It was a great, great, great Mother's Day. And then we came home and had my brother and sister-in-law were doing the transition from Columbia, Maryland, back up to Bar Harbor for the summer. So they came and we're like we're the stopping point, the halfway stopping point. So they had dinner with us. So Gary grilled steaks and man, it was just a fabulous day.
I finally got out of the house for the first time Saturday and Sunday. So instead of, I just went for a drive.
Yes.
Like I just needed to, after like a week of being cooped up, I needed to get
me out
out
of here. Yeah.
Like grocery delivery is a wonderful thing, so you don't get anybody else sick.
Yes.
But then you're bored out of, there's only so much TV you can watch.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
or
exactly.
Like putter on the computer.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yep, absolutely.
Like, enough. I gotta go. Help me.
Exactly. Well, anyway, happy belated Mother's Day to all you moms out there. I think we mentioned it last week, but if we didn't, hope you all had a wonderful, wonderful day. And Carol Palmer, it was actually her birthday. So her birthday this year fell on Mother's Day. So yesterday, I hadn't seen her on Thursday. The staff had done a card for her, and it was like the perfect card. It was hysterical. So I gave her the card yesterday, and I said to her, I'm really sorry. I said, I wasn't here Thursday morning, and she had left by the time I came. And then, of course, she doesn't have class again until Tuesday. So I said, happy belated birthday. And she said, oh, no, don't worry about it. She said, we celebrate my birthday all month. It's like the entire month of May.
I believe that.
And I said, yep, that sounds like Carol Palmer. So anyway.
I believe that.
All right. So you are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of Chocolate Chip Day, we are going to listen to the Janettes singing Who Stole the Cookie from the Cookie Jar. We'll be back.
Who stole that cookie from that cookie jar? Well, who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Number one stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Who me stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Yes, you stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Not me stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Then who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Number two stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Who me stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Yes, you stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Not me stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Then who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Number three stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Yeah, number one. Yeah, number two. Number three. Number four. Number five. Yeah, number five stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Yeah, who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Number one stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Who me stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Yes, you stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Not me stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Then who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Number two stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Who me stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Yes, you stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Not me stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Then who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? Number three stole the cookie from the cookie jar. Number one. Yeah.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays, and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m., go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Listen to me, Michael Buster McMahon, Mondays 8 to 10 a.m. to learn the stories behind your favorite songs. Or don't. I'm not the boss of you.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:20. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So May is Correct Your Posture Month. And I really needed to pay attention to this because I'm always trying to do better with my posture. Rounded shoulders and a hunched stance may seem like they're set in stone by the time we reach a certain age, and you may feel you've missed the boat for better posture. But there's a good chance you can still stand up taller. It's not as hard as you may think. Better posture is often just a matter of changing your activities and strengthening your muscles, says Saloni Doshi, a physical therapist with Harvard-affiliated Brigham and Women's Hospital. So, first of all, what causes posture problems? Well, poor posture often stems from modern-day habits like working in front of a computer, slouching on a couch while you're watching television, or looking down at a smartphone. Poor posture could also be due to many hours spent carrying heavy objects like equipment at work, grocery bags, or a heavy purse. All of these activities can make you stoop or bring your shoulders forward. This overstretches and weakens the muscles in the back of your shoulders and shortens the muscles in the front of your shoulders and in your chest. Gravity then pulls the muscles forward because the muscles are too weak to pull them back up, Doshi explains. If the core muscles in your back and abdomen have grown weak from inactivity, that can also cause you to lean forward. Those muscles are crucial to lifting your frame and keeping you upright. Another cause of poor posture comes from broken bones in your back. People with brittle bones or osteoporosis may experience compression fractures when the bones in the back or the vertebrae aren't strong enough to support the load placed on them. The bone collapses on the front side, the part closest to the chest, and as collapsed vertebrae stack up, the spine becomes rounded and bends forward. Poor posture consequences. So sometimes people will ask, well, why should I change my posture? I don't mind it. But one of the big things that happens with forward posture is that your center of gravity goes forward, and that does increase the risk of falling. Poor posture can also cause back or neck pain, headaches, trouble breathing, or trouble walking. Back and neck pain seem to be the most common, Doshi says. So, tips to standing taller. The key to fixing poor posture is strengthening and stretching the muscles in the upper back, chest, and core. Shoulder strengtheners can include scapula squeezes, so that's squeezing your shoulder blades together for 30 seconds at a time, so you can kind of feel it in the back. And rows, using a resistance band to pull back your elbows like you're rowing, okay? Core strengtheners, your core is here, so that includes modified planks in which you hold a push-up position while you're propped up on your elbows, or simply tightening your abdominal muscles, pulling your navel toward your spine. An easy way to stretch your chest muscles is simply put your arms behind your back, grasp both elbows or forearms if that's as far as you can reach, and then just hold that position. So you just grab your elbows like this behind you, and that'll stretch your back. And do that. I do that several times a day now. I've also gotten into the habit of just lying on the floor and just putting my arms back or just my arms over my head. Oh man, it just, you can really feel that stretch. You'll also have to work on your posture in everyday activities. So a simple trick, even when you're sitting or watching television, is roll up a towel and put it behind your shoulders. It makes you sit up straight so the towel won't fall. That's one of the suggestions by this physical therapist. Cut down on activities that have led to poor posture too. Take breaks from computer and TV time and exercise more. You know, one of the benefits, because I know so many people now, you know, are watching things streaming and so forth, but one of the benefits of commercials is that a lot of times that's when you would get up, you go to the bathroom, you get yourself a snack, you know, you'd go put something away.
Listen, now even with streaming, the commercials
are there.
That's how you know something's come into its own. Because now the commercials want to go where the eyeballs are, and everybody's streaming.
Yeah.
Even on YouTube,
Yeah.
the commercials are out of
Okay.
it. Unbelievable now.
Well, and so you know, there's your cue when the commercial comes on. Get up and do something. You know, stop sitting for a few minutes. And
Yep.
and so, in 6 to 12 weeks, says Doshi, you'll see an improvement in your posture. So even if you're older, it's not too soon. And there was a stretch of the month where you sit on a chair, so the back of the chair. Let me see if I can do this on camera. So that you don't have anything behind you, and you just clasp your hands behind you like this, and you'll really feel that stretch. So again, you know, do that several times a day. And I think on the video that Gary and Grace did that we run on Channel 15, I think they do some of those kinds
Sounds
of
about right.
exercises. Yeah. So anyway, May is Correct Your Posture Month. So have at it. I used to have an art teacher at the high school that I went to who was always telling all of us, you know, as we were walking by, stand up straight. And I got so used to that. I was like, okay, yeah, I will do that. Okay. All right, let's do a couple of famous birthdays. It is the birthday of the late Madeleine Albright, diplomat born on this day in 1937 in Prague, Czechoslovakia. She just died last year, March 23rd, 2022, at the age of 84. Madeleine Albright moved with her family to the United States as a child. After studying at Wellesley College and Columbia University, she entered politics at the urging of a former professor. In 1993, she became the American ambassador to the United Nations, and in December of 1996, Bill Clinton nominated her for Secretary of State. When she was sworn into the position the following January, she became the 64th Secretary of State and the first woman to ever hold that position. During her tenure, Albright advocated for increased human rights and democracy throughout the world and fought to halt the spread of nuclear weapons from former Soviet countries to rogue nations such as North Korea. A champion of NATO, Madeleine Albright also sought to expand the organization's membership, and in 1999, she pushed for its direct military intervention during the humanitarian crisis in Kosovo. As a diplomat, she was closely involved in work to normalize U.S. relations with countries such as China and Vietnam, and in 1997 was a major player in a peace mission to the Middle East, during which she brokered negotiations between Israel and various Arab nations. In October of 2000, Albright made history again when she became the first American Secretary of State to travel to North Korea. She left her position in 2001. She authored several New York Times bestselling books, including Madam Secretary, a memoir, The Mighty and the Almighty, Reflections on America, God, and World Affairs, Read My Pins, Stories from a Diplomat's Jewel Box, and Prague Winter, a personal story of remembrance and war. She died of cancer last year at the age of 84. So happy birthday to the late Madeleine Albright. And it is also the birthday of the late Pierre Curie, husband of Marie, Madame Curie. He was a physicist and chemist. Born on this day in 1859 in Paris, France. He died young. He died April 19th, 1906 at the age of 46. Pierre Curie conducted his studies of radioactive substances with his wife Marie, and the pair overcame the challenges posed by inadequate lab equipment and heavy teaching schedules. They succeeded in isolating the elements of radium and polonium. Marie Curie named polonium after her native country of Poland. I didn't know that. The Curies went on to describe many of the novel properties of radium, which would form the basis of subsequent research in the fields of nuclear physics and chemistry. Pierre and Marie Curie were awarded half of the 1903 Nobel Prize in Physics for their work on radiation. The other half of the prize went to Henry Becquerel, whose work had informed the Curie's research. The Curies were also awarded the Davy Medal of the Royal Society of London in 1903, and in 1905, Pierre Curie was elected to the Academy of Sciences. He died in an accident in Paris, France on April 19, 1906. Curie lost his footing while crossing the street and fell beneath the wheels of a horse-drawn vehicle, suffering a fatal skull fracture. He was just 46 years old. That was certainly a freak kind of an accident, you know? I mean, that is not something that you would expect. But happy birthday to the late Pierre Curie. It is 7:30. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC cable channel 15. So in honor of Correct Your Posture Month, we're going to listen to the Booth Brothers singing Standing Tall. We'll be back.
Time so tough, but I've seen the way you take the heat and never do give up. It seems unfair that most folks just aren't trying to live by faith, but I think back 2 years ago when I heard my grandpa say, thunder shakes a mountainside, but it seems to me when lightning strikes, somehow it always finds the highest tree. I look at what you're facing and think maybe after all, the only thing that you've been guilty of is standing tall. Let the hurt keep you humble. Let it make you look inside. Let it keep you on your knees, searching for a reason why. I may not have the answers, but I've seen this before. Sometimes the faithful ones are called to bear a little more. Thunder shakes a mountainside, but it seems to me when lightning strikes, somehow it always finds the highest tree. I look at what you're facing and think maybe after all, the only thing that you've been guilty of is standing tall. Mountainside, but it seems to me when lightning strikes, somehow it always finds the highest tree. Oh, I look at what you're facing and think maybe after all, the only thing that you've been guilty of is standing tall.
Underwriting is brought to you by Boise Cascade Distribution, providing products and services needed for building material dealers, home improvement centers, and industrial customers. They offer everything from engineered wood and plywood to Drex decking and railing, James Hardie siding, and Advantech subfloor. Located at 33 Fowler Street Extension in Westfield and on the web at bc.com, they are committed to providing quality products, great service, convenience, and value.
Saturdays were made for polka. Tune in to the Polka Jammer Network starting at 6 a.m. and Polka Hall of Famer Billy Bellina, Breakfast at BB at 8:30.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:35. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. We've talked a little bit about May being Correct Your Posture Month. It is also Mental Health Awareness Month, but it is also Bicycle Month. So we have the mayor's 15th annual bike ride coming up next Wednesday. So it's 1 week from today on May 22nd. Please join Mayor Mike McCabe and the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail at the 15th Annual Mayor's Bike Ride on Wednesday, May 22nd at 5:30. So you want to put that on your calendar, 5:30. This 7 to 8 mile bike ride will start and end at the City Hall parking lot and will be partially escorted by the Westfield Police Department. Ride for fun, ride for health, ride to experience a different perspective of Westfield along the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. If you've never been on the rail trail, this is a wonderful opportunity to check it out because it really is kind of special. Northside Creamery will be present at City Hall after the ride with refreshments, and riders are encouraged to stay and socialize. In case of inclement weather, a news flash will be made on the city website, which is located at www.cityofwestfield.org, and on the city's Facebook page. A rain date of May 29th has been set. So if it's raining next week on the 22nd, the ride will take place a week later. This event is open to all cyclists of all abilities and all ages. So children, all the way up to older adults, everyone in between. It is one of many bike-related events planned throughout the state, recognizing May as Bay State Bike Month. So again, it's next Wednesday, May 22nd at 5:30, with a rain date of the following Wednesday, May 29th. Also, we had on the show, probably about a month or so ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, we had some guests from Grandmother's Garden. They are celebrating their 90th anniversary, and they have a whole slate of events planned for that anniversary.
Has Leslie been emailing you too?
No.
She's involved in that committee, so she's been emailing me. I got to get back to her today.
No. But I have...
And I have the list on Channel 12 on the bulletin board.
Okay, great.
I have the list of all of the activities.
Great. Wonderful. Yeah. So so they had given me this list when they were on the show.
Yep.
And then I got another thing in the mail. So I thought, okay, this is perfect. I kind of had it set aside because they were on, I think, like in either late March or early April, and things were going to start getting going in early May. So now we're here. We're in May.
There you go.
So the next thing that they have going on is May 18th. Which one is that, Pete? Saturday or Sunday? Today's the 15th, 16th, 17th, Saturday.
Yeah.
The 5th annual car show in Chauncey Allen Park.
That's in conjunction with the Westfield Tech Academy.
Yes, it is, with the WTA Motorsports Club. So enjoy. It'll be from 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. Enjoy Grandmother's Garden while you're at the car show, and look for information for our information table to learn about ways Grandmother's Garden supports the community. The rain date on that car show is June 1st. Okay, but the show will be this Saturday. And then on Sunday, May 19th from 9 to 11, that's the infamous The Sex Lives of Wildflowers with the Naturalist Club. Join naturalists Tom and Nancy Condon to explore the intricate lives of plants as they attract pollinators and other animals to ensure reproduction. Meet in Grandmother's Garden for a guided nature walk through the garden and Chauncey Allen Park. So there you go. You've got two of the 90th anniversary, Grandmother's Garden 90th anniversary events coming up. This weekend, May 18th, we have the car show from 10 to 2. And May 19th, we have the Sex Lives of Wildflowers with the Naturalist Club, and that's from 9 to 11. So, and Grandmother's Garden is located right across the street from Westfield Technical Academy. All right, May 19th. which we just said is Sunday. So that's at 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6:30. The Westfield Women's Club, which is located at 28 Court Street, has the Fillmore All-Star Band. The Fillmore All-Star Band, and they do a tribute. It's an Allman Brothers tribute. So if you're interested in that, you're going to want to go to the Women's Club website, which is www.westfieldwomensclub.com. The tickets are $20 online and $25 at the door. Again, the doors will open at 6:30, and that is this Sunday. The Fillmore All-Star Band with an Allman Brothers tribute. Okay, so that's what's happened. There's a lot going on this weekend. At the Senior Center, we have a lot going on at the Senior Center as well. And first of all, I really kind of want to highlight this program. It's Community Legal Aid, a helpful resource. This is free legal help in non-criminal cases. So we have
so like small claims.
It has to do, consumer rights, tenant rights.
Gotcha. Okay.
Landlord rights, those kinds of things. So topics for discussion, Peter, are going to be evictions, foreclosures, unfair consumer practices, access to disability benefits. So there are two attorneys who are going to be joining us that day, Christine Kamas and Thomas Hulley, both from Community Legal Aid. You do need to sign up in advance for this. The date is Wednesday, May 29th, so it's 2 weeks from today at 1 p.m. And I'm mentioning it because we're going to be doing a best of show next Wednesday, so I won't be here to make this announcement. But we do have the flyers up at the Senior Center. And Pete, I think I'll get this on a format that you can put it on Channel 12 and Channel 15, and I'll get this to you later on today.
All right.
Because I just think this is a really fabulous resource. Again, it's Community Legal Aid. It's a helpful resource. This is free legal help in non-criminal cases. They don't handle criminal stuff, but they handle about everything else. There's a whole bunch of I went on their website, and they really help out in so many ways. So again, that presentation will be Wednesday, May 29th at the Senior Center at 1 o'clock. You do need to sign up in advance. And that's just so that we know. We have so much going on at the Senior Center now. That's just so we know what room we're putting, who's going into which room based on the size and the number of people. So that's the method to that madness. So that's coming up there. I have a text in to Mary Lou Najelski, our program director. Oh, yes, we still do. Okay. Our Mother's Day dance extravaganza luncheon is coming up on Thursday, May 30th. We typically do our Mother's Day luncheon at the end of May. For one thing, it gives us better access to good performers because all the other ones are booked up closer to Mother's Day. This year, we have the Small Planet Dancers are coming back. They have not been at the Senior Center since before the pandemic, so we're very excited to have them back. They're going to be doing the Republic of Dance, which is dances from around the world, so that will be the entertainment.
Okay.
The last I checked, we had about 10 tickets left. So there aren't a lot of tickets left for this event. The tickets went on sale last week. The date is Thursday, May 30th. The dancers will perform from 11 to noon, and then we will have our luncheon at noon, which I think I'm going to have to dig out
I have a question. Are you guys still doing hybrid, or are you back completely in person for lunches?
No. Well, we are still doing curbside and indoor.
Okay.
So
is indoor 5 days a week now, or
right now
still 3?
Indoor is still 3. So it's still Tuesday, Wednesday,
because I know we hadn't
Thursday.
talked about it in a while. So.
Yep. Indoor lunch is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yep.
You do have to sign up 24 hours in advance, and you can sign up for that week and the following week, but you at least have to sign up by noon the day before. The new director, who's not, he's into it for over 6 months now, so I can probably stop calling him the new director. But Mike Squindo's working very hard to bring indoor back 5 days a week. So that'll probably be sometime in the not too distant future. I think he's targeting sometime over the summer or in the early fall.
Because people have seen value in both.
Yes, but we are keeping curbside. He is absolutely committed to that, and I'm really happy about that because I was absolutely committed to keeping curbside. We have some people who simply cannot come in for indoor lunches. We have a lot of caregivers who come through the line.
Caregivers, sure.
Yep, and then we also have some people that are, we have people that are undergoing cancer treatments. It's not feasible for them, and it works out much better for them to get their meal, be able to eat it in between
Yep.
their treatments as they can, maybe a little at a time. So, there are some circumstances where that curbside is a lifeline for them. So
right.
we
It's
are
not just an outlier. There is a significant
there's
number that need it.
Correct. There's a
Yeah.
reason for that. So now on the days that we
I
have,
just wanted to explain that to people because I know
Yep.
we've covered it before. And,
Yep.
and people are like, well, the pandemic is pretty
Right,
much over.
exactly. And why
why
are
are we
you
still
doing-
doing it? Well, there's value to it.
right, and we also have those people, and Mary Lou and I have had many discussions with them. Well, if you do away with curbside, that'll force those people to come inside.
No, they'll just stop.
In fact, they won't be able to come at all. And
Right.
so they will forego the meal. And that is not what we want to happen, because the people who were doing curbside during the pandemic and wanted to come inside are coming inside. They're
Right.
doing that. So we are doing curbside 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And again, indoors Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And just make sure that you sign up for that the day before. And I wanted to let you know, for those who are interested in getting one of those tickets that's left, they're $5 a piece for the Mother's Day Dance Extravaganza Luncheon, which is happening on the 30th of May. The menu, because I know people usually ask me, the menu is baked honey ham, pineapple stuffing, which I understand is like to die for. I really want to get that recipe. Green bean almondine and lemon burst pudding cake cups for dessert. So it's going to be a great menu, great performance, because the Small Planet dancers have been with us before. We thank the Westfield Cultural Council because they are helping to sponsor that. And again, this is a ticketed event, so you do have to purchase your ticket in advance. We don't have too many left, so if you're interested, I suggest you mosey on down to the Senior Center. You actually have to come and purchase the tickets. You can't call in and just reserve them. You actually have to come and purchase them. So, having said all of that, let's take a short break. It is 7:46. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So, in honor of the mayor's upcoming bicycle ride, it's not a race, it's a ride, that will be happening next week. And because it's Bay State Bike Month, we're going to listen to Red Hot Chili Peppers singing the bicycle song. We'll be back.
Here she comes in a suit and tie, shepherd's bush and a leopard's pie. She's marching to the funky beat of James Brown and his dancing feet. I'm gonna set your fish on fire, a pistol whipping of desire. So please do not resist your fate. I'll pick you up, yes, it's a day. How could I forget to mention a bicycle is a good invention? Sitting there in a silent movie beside the only girl who really ever knew me. Happy days but sad face, and heaven knows I'm on the case. Oh, how could I forget to mention the bicycle? Somebody told the world the beauty of your birth. My girl, I heard it first. The beauty of your verse. A sticky finger and a wicked taste. Got a lot of nerve and a lyrical case. Be sure to write it in your book. I promise not to look. I wanna smell your sunny face. A funny place, but it's never a waste. I'd hop this fence to make amends. I hope this movie never ends. How could I forget to mention the bicycle is a good invention? Make it up, making you my business. A funny buttercup, gotta live for forgiveness. Happy days, but sad face, and heaven knows I'm on the case. So how could I forget to mention the bicycle? Somebody told the world the beauty of your verse. My girl, I heard it first. The beauty of your verse. Somebody told the world
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:51. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So a couple other announcements. Well, first of all, I was reading in today's Westfield News. Here it is, which I stopped and picked up on my way in this morning.
Okay.
So they're having this big citywide tag sale in Westfield this weekend. So organizer sees citywide tag sale as a way to bring the community together. So Patty Wright has been organizing this. So the same rules apply. So you have to go to the city clerk's office and get a tag sale permit, which is $10.
Right.
But I think her goal, she said, it's just it would just be a way for like everybody doing something at the same sort of the same
shopping.
time. Yeah, exactly. So I think right now they're up to. I think her goal is like 45. Yeah, she expects they had over 30 people registered already, and she expects over 40 in total. And the tag sales will be all over the city. So they'll be like your neighborhood tag sale. But, the thing is that when you kind of get everybody doing it at the same time.
It makes it more convenient for the people coming through town.
Exactly. And it's kind of more fun. And, you can. And so anyway, there's a great article. She has some great tips if you are hosting a tag sale, which I thought she had some great ideas in there. So you'll pick up your copy of the Westfield News and you can read all about that. I thought that was pretty cool. Also, Stanley Park has come out with their new brochure for this year. Man, they are rocking and rolling in Stanley Park. I can't believe all the stuff that's going on there. They have Zumba on Tuesdays, which has started last week from 6 to 7 p.m. They're doing yoga in the park, which started last week from May through the end of August, Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. I saw this in the Westfield News, I think yesterday, they're doing walks around Stanley Park, which they've done in the past.
They've done like tours, yeah.
Yeah, Thursday mornings from 9:30 to 10:30. That started last week as well. And I think you meet at the Caroline. Oh, no, you're meeting at the children's area, the children's pavilion. They're doing sound bath meditation, which I don't remember them ever doing that before. On certain dates. So the upcoming one is May 22nd, 6 to 7 p.m. We are excited to bring this health initiative back with monthly sound bath meditation sessions led by Jolie Therian and of Hazy Cosmic Jive Healing. Each of these sessions will be held in the Evelyn B. Rose Garden. You want to bring with you a pillow, blanket, and or yoga mat to lay on or a chair. Whatever will bring you the most comfort and relaxation during the session. So I thought that was kind of cool. They are also bringing back their Carillon concerts, and the next one will be May 19th, which is this Sunday, 1:30 to 2:30 p.m.
They did a lot of repairs to the Carillon over the last couple of years, I think.
Yes, they have. And then they're also doing Stanley Park tours. The next one will be this Saturday, May 18th from 9 to 10:30. Stanley Park invites you to take a walking tour through the beautiful grounds of the park. Your personal guide will show you the many inviting areas of this picturesque park has to offer. So all kinds of good stuff. Obviously, everything is on their webpage as well, so that you can go to Stanley Park. Just Google Stanley Park, Westfield, Mass, and you'll pull up their webpage. And beginning on June 2nd, they'll start their Sunday night concerts. And then their children's programming will start at the end of June after school lets out. So we'll be announcing those as we go along. So lots of things happening at Stanley Park. Stay tuned for all of that. Back to the Senior Center, again, because I won't be here next week. We'll be doing a best of show next Wednesday. Just an announcement to remind folks that the Diabetes Dialogue Support and Education Group meets on the last Tuesday of the month at the Senior Center from 1 to 2:30. So this month it will be on Tuesday, May 28th. And the topic, Jen Jafune is the facilitator, and her topic for this month will be getting high blood pressure under control when you are a diabetic. So, dealing with diabetes and high blood pressure, how to kind of get those under control. We have brought back, after a very long hiatus, the bridge players are back at the Senior Center on Monday afternoons from 1 to 3 p.m., generally in the Learning Center, sometimes up in the multipurpose room. If they get too big, they're going to outgrow the Learning Center rather quickly, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, Monday afternoons from 1 to 3 p.m., and then, of course, we've got all kinds of other stuff. We have Mahjong on Wednesday afternoons. That's getting to be quite popular. That's also, our Learning Center has been kind of repurposed. Mike Squindo pulled out all of the desktop computers, which were really pretty much out of date. The Tech Center said, you need to get rid of them. And instead of replacing them, he's going to be replacing them with a couple of laptops that people can actually just borrow within the Senior Center, but they're not confined to any one room. Which kind of freed up the Learning Center. So it's actually really nice in there. He moved the, which I love this. This is what it takes, fresh eyes and a different perspective, because I would not have ever thought to do this. He brought in the small square tables and found sort of some of the comfy padded chairs. And so we have, I think that's seat 16 right now.
Okay.
He's got, I think there are either 4 or 5 of the small tables with 4 at each table. So it's perfect for the Mahjong players. It's perfect for the bridge players. He likes to have the Council on Aging board meetings in that room. He pushes the tables together, and we've got computer access and so forth. So it's good space. So that's where Mahjong is. Of course, the cribbage players are playing on Tuesday mornings. And we actually had to move them out of the multipurpose room because they way outgrew that. They are now in the Great Room Annex, and they just have this long set of tables, end to end. It looks like the Last Supper on steroids. I mean, it's just like it's a riot,
funny.
But they're having a lot of fun. Bruce Cordes is the facilitator coordinator of that group. So that's on Tuesday mornings, and they had to expand the time. They were going from 9. I think they started at 9 to 11, and then it was 9 to 11:30. Now it's 9 to noon. Pretty soon they're just going to want to be in there all day, but it's 9 to noon, so they're having a lot of fun. Fitness signups are this morning. So for those of you who would either like to take Carol Palmer's Totally Fun Fitness class or any one of the chair yoga classes, signups begin in 45 minutes. I'm ducking out of here in about 30 seconds because I got to go get ready for that. It is curbside sign up. Make sure that you have your money in an envelope, and on the outside of the envelope, we need your name, the class that you want to take, the session that you want to take, because of course we have multiple sessions of all these things, and either cash, hopefully with the exact change, or a check made out to the Westfield Council on Aging. All right, I am signing off. It is 7:59. Pete, do we have
Everything Southwick's up next.
Everything Southwick is up next. I will see you. I will be back in 2 weeks. Have a great one. Take care. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield.